The US Federal Reserve Bank just decided to cut interest rates by 25 basis points, which is 0.25%. But what does this mean and why does it even matter? Well, stay tuned because we'll cover all that and more in today's finance edition of Phrasal Verb News. I'm Grant and welcome back to Phrasal Verb News, where I use real news stories to teach you phrasal verbs and idioms in context. First, I'll talk about the story and then explain each phrasal verb in context with examples. Y también les voy a dar un breve explicación en español para que todos puedan entender. Let's get started. So the Federal Reserve is the central bank of the United States, and it has two main objectives: to keep inflation in check and to keep the job market healthy. This is somewhat of a balancing act, because if the economy grows too fast, the job market will be great, but inflation may outpace job growth, leaving most Americans worse off. Maybe your salary increases by $500 a month, but your rent also increases by $500 a month, so you really don't benefit from this increase. That's why it's important for the Fed to balance inflation with job growth. But anyway, this month, inflation took a back seat to job growth as the Fed decided to cut interest rates for the first time this year. To put it simply, this makes borrowing money cheaper and incentivizes businesses to borrow money and expand, thus creating more jobs. But does this affect other countries? Yes. Because the dollar is the world's reserve currency, a change in Fed policy can create a ripple effect around the globe. When the Fed cuts rates, the dollar can get weaker. That makes it cheaper for other countries to buy US products. And it can also push investors to move money into other markets that offer higher returns or more profit. So a small change in Washington can affect trade, investment, and even prices all across the world. Let's move on to the vocab. I'll explain the meaning, give you a couple examples, and then ask a question. Try to answer the question out loud or in your head so you can practice it right away. First, we have keep something in check. This means to limit or control something so it doesn't get out of control. For example, the Fed's job is to keep inflation in check. We need strong leadership to keep costs in check during expansion. En español es como mantener bajo control. Por ejemplo, el Banco Central intenta mantener la inflación bajo control. And a question: what's one thing you try to keep in check in your daily life? Next, we have take a back seat to. This means that one thing is less important than something else. Think about in a car. You have the front seat with the driver and the back seat. This month, inflation took a back seat to job growth, meaning they prioritized job growth over inflation. In a crisis, long-term projects often take a back seat to immediate problems. En español es como pasar a segundo plano. Por ejemplo, los beneficios pasaron a segundo plano frente a la seguridad de los empleados. And a question: what goals in your life sometimes take a back seat to more urgent needs? Next, we have better or worse off. This means to be in a better or worse situation compared to before. For example, if inflation grows too fast, most Americans may be worse off even if they have more money. After the merger, some employees were better off. They had higher salaries and more freedom, but others were worse off because they got laid off. En español, es como estar en una mejor o peor situación. Por ejemplo, con la nueva ley, muchos consumidores están peor. And a question: do you think your country is better off or worse off after recent economic changes? Lastly, we have ripple effect. This is when one small action spreads out and causes many other effects. Like when you drop a rock in the water and you see the small waves ripple away. It's just like that. A Fed rate cut can create a ripple effect across the globe. The CEO's sudden resignation had a ripple effect across the entire industry. En español es como efecto dominó o efecto en cadena. Por ejemplo, la decisión tuvo un efecto en cadena en los mercados internacionales. And a question: can you think of a decision at work that had a ripple effect on many people? What was the decision? So, to wrap up, the Fed cut interest rates by 0.25% to try to keep inflation in check while supporting jobs. This time, inflation took a backseat to concerns about the labor market. But decisions like this don't just affect Americans. They can set off a ripple effect worldwide, changing trade, investment, and even prices in other countries. In the long run, the goal is for people to be better off and not worse off. Whether that happens depends on how the economy reacts in the months ahead. Gracias por escuchar. I'm Grant with Phrasal Verb News. Come back next week for more stories, more idioms, and more English. And let me know in the comments if you liked this finance edition of Phrasal Verb News. I studied finance in the university and am quite interested in the subject, so I'm thinking about making at least one video a week about some finance topic, maybe about Fed decisions, the economy, markets, things like that. So if you like this topic about finance, be sure to leave a comment down below and I'd be happy to hear from you. And if you're interested in improving your business English so you can communicate better, I do offer one-on-one and group classes. Send me an email at grant@businessasusualenglish.com for more information. Thanks for listening. See you next time.